Clemson men's basketball team plays Virginia Tech in a big ACC matchup. Going to be one of those teams that they're contending against all season, really. One of those mid-level teams that Clemson was actually able to get a win against last year. But I'd like to see them start the season off strong. They played Anderson University, my undergrad alma mater, and beat them. So I look forward to seeing what Clemson can do against Virginia Tech. And then they've got another game, I believe, on Thursday, starting out, and some of their mid-major teams kind of getting that season started. So it's exciting. Got two games on the schedule right now, the November 5th and November 7th. So look forward to that. But I wanted to give everybody a preview of the Clemson men's basketball team. Alan, the way I did this for you is I'm going to tell you the team first, and then we're going to talk about the schedule, and then we're going to do our expectations. Okay, so let me run through it real quick. You ready?
Okay.
All right, so you got center, formerly Elijah Thomas's position. Now it looks like you're probably going to have like an Amir Sims, not exactly a center type guy, but he's been taking on that role. When they went overseas and won the gold medal, he was kind of their centerpiece in that defense and on that team. So I look forward to him being that kind of the big man, even though he's not really that big man. Trey Jamison is a big man, but hasn't really made himself into a starter yet, so I don't expect him to become a starter right now to start out the season. So I expect Amir Sims to do that. As far as power forward goes, then you still could put Sims there, but I believe it originally was supposed to be for Jonathan Bear, and he tore his ACL. He should come back. We're hoping sometime in late January, maybe mid-February, maybe. That's what we're hoping for him. He was supposed to be a download guy that could still go out and shoot three-pointers. But then you have Tevin Mack, an Alabama transfer. He's a grad guy. He only got 1 year left, and he might be able to play some power forward, but he kind of bounces between power forward and wing, small forward. And they're going to be replacing Amir Sims from last year, but Amir Sims is going to be there too. But so he's not gone. Small forward, you're going to be replacing David Scarra, a guy who is known for his defense, not so much known for his offense. You're going to replace him with probably like a John Newman or a Hunter Tyson, maybe a Kevon Moore, maybe a Tevin Mack. You got a lot of options there in small forward or the wing. And then shooting guard, you got Marquise Reed from last year. Got to replace that, awesome player, that star of the team. Curran Scott, he's a transfer from Tulsa. He's got 1 year left. He's a good shooter. He might be there. Alex Hemingway is a pickup that might be a good shooter, but more than likely Chase Hunter is going to start that. This guy is a true freshman that, people talk about Brad Brownell can't recruit. Well, this is a guy that Brad Brownell recruited. There's going to be a lot of guys that are young guys that Brad Brownell brought in that we're looking forward to see, but also some transfers as well. And then finally, point guard. Shelton Mitchell was typically the point guard last year. You're looking at more than likely Alamir Dawes. They did bring over Nick Honor, but he's a Fordham transfer who can't play this year, so won't be able to use him. They were originally going to use Clyde Trapp, but he tore his ACL as well. Might not get to see him until February or March. Because I believe he tore his after Bear. But that's kind of a quick wrap up of the team. Anything stick out for you as far as the team specifically?
We have so much to replace from last year. I think the biggest challenge to this team, obviously, is what everybody is kind of expecting. Not only just losing all that experience. I mean, we lost 4 starters. The only guy back that is a starter is Amir Sims, is our point guard play. We're going to have 2 freshmen probably leading the point for us, and Alamir Dawes and Chase Hunter, I would imagine, will get some opportunity there as well. That's a tough deal going into ACC play for to try to break in as a freshman. And it's crazy that, not only is the first game tomorrow, it's a conference game. Hunter Tyson, you've got to count on him to be a more consistent shooter. They actually thought he was a really good shooter when he came to Clemson, and he has not been that guy as of yet. But if I remember, Gabe DeVoe was that same way. He was a huge scorer in high school, and it took him a couple years to get going as well. So it's not something that he's a lost cause or anything like that, but it's time to kind of show us what you got. So I want to see some Hunter Tyson ability from John Newman. We know he's got athleticism. We know he can jump out of the gym, but we want to see some more from him there. And as far as the transfers go, Kevon Moore, I think it's going to be interesting to see. A lot of people were kind of, jumping for joy when they heard he got a waiver and was, kind of granted his immediate eligibility. I'm just not so sure he is to step in and be a solid contributor right from the start. I think it's more of a depth thing for him. I think it's the fact that we have another body that can provide you some quality minutes and kind of get better as the season progresses. I think you're going to rely a little more on Tevin Mack than you will Kevon Moore. But, we'll kind of see how all the all the rotation shakes out. I'm kind of excited to see Curran Scott a little more than a lot of people are. Nick Honor's the one, that is waiting on kind of word about his transfer as well. And it doesn't look good. I heard a little bit of information today that they're kind of waiting to hear for him, and they just didn't seem real optimistic about it. So I'm assuming he's going to have to sit this year. But I think Curran Scott, he's a streaky shooter, but when he gets hot, I mean, he's good for a few threes a game, which sometimes is all you need. Clemson really needs to improve upon their three-point shooting from last year. I was not a fan of them shooting threes last year. Amir Sims popping out, and he was a little inconsistent there. I think kind of the same has been going this offseason, but I'm hoping some of the others can kind of step in and pick up the slack, be a little more threat from the three-point line, and show a little more consistency there throughout the season.
Yeah, and if you look at the schedule, you've got for November, I kind of broke it down between the months. There's only really like 3 big months, November, December, and January. Well, I guess 4 big months, February as well. But if you look at it, you've got November. They start out with Virginia Tech, which is a team they're going to be fighting for in the ACC. Not your typical cupcake team that they get to play at the beginning of the season to work things out. That was kind of what Anderson University was there for. But then they get some mid-majors. You got November 7th against Presbyterian, November 10th against Colgate, November 17th against the Detroit Mercy, and then November 21st against Alabama A&M. So all teams that I believe that Clemson needs to come out. The best case scenario is before Clemson goes into that Las Vegas tournament, that they're undefeated, that they are 5-0, and then they're going to go in and play TCU on November 24th at Las Vegas, and then they've got Wyoming or Colorado in November 26th in Las Vegas as well. So that is something where it would be best case scenario for Clemson to walk away with no losses, or at least maybe just one loss, and kind of get through with that. Hopefully the only loss to be maybe Virginia Tech, if anything. But we want to see Clemson do well in November. I think they have a team that can do it. I'm very encouraged with this team. I did watch those games in Italy, and I think that they performed really well. Like you said, Tevin Mack's going to be somebody that they can center around. They also want to center around Amir Sims. He's a guy who is, if you look at social media, he's excited about taking on that leadership role. And so I'm looking forward to see what he can do. In December, still some more, average teams centered around South Carolina game on December 15th. Got Minnesota, Florida State. Florida State's going to be a difficult game there. They always play Clemson tough. That's at Florida State. You don't ever want to do that because just Florida State always seems to get a win against Clemson when they're in Tallahassee. Then you got Jacksonville, Yale, and then Miami to finish out December 31st. Then on my birthday in January against NC State, another game, kind of one of those pivotal games. I believe last year Clemson didn't get the win. It was one of those games where in the last minute or so they had the ability to win the game and didn't. And then it kind of starts out some difficult games at North Carolina. That's always a tough one for sure. Versus Duke, at NC State. Again, got to play them twice in a span of a couple of weeks. Then versus Wake Forest, at Louisville, versus Syracuse to round out January. Really, January and February are your ACC play. And then in March, finishing up with Virginia and Georgia Tech. Not going to be easy for Clemson by any means. A lot of people are predicting Clemson to have a losing record this year, maybe project around 13-16 overall, with a 7-3 in the ACC is what some people are saying. I don't know. I hope to see Clemson do better if they can win all of their kind of mid-major non-ACC games, and then sneak by with a couple of those bottom-of-the-barrel ACC teams. They might be able to sneak by with a 20-win season, maybe a 19-win season going into the ACC tournament. It would be stretching it, though. But like I said, I feel like that this team is going to surprise a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually don't disagree with that very much. It's about the point guard play. Can we grow those guys up, and can we grow them up relatively quickly? The problem is you got to sneak by that ACC team first before they kind of get their shots against those lower level teams. And now Virginia Tech is supposed to be the bottom feeder in the ACC. I think they were picked 14th preseason. Clemson was picked 11th. So it seems like we would have the advantage there going into that first game. So I'm hoping we can at least squeak out a win, and then kind of, work the kinks out as we go along for some of those lower level teams before we get tournament, like you mentioned, which I think is a possibility. I think this team is a lot more athletic than teams in the past. So I think they're going to be able to play a little more kind of up and down the court a little bit. I think they're going to get after a little more on defense. Which is kind of a necessity, when you like the skill as far as shooting the ball is concerned. And that's something I hope we can do much better this year. But I'm looking forward to it. I think we're going to do better than people think. I'm saying we're going to end up somewhere around, somewhere between 7 and 9, maybe in the ACC, as opposed to the 11th that we were picked preseason. So it's not going to be a bad year. I think we'll end up probably going to a tournament such as the NIT or something like that. But hey, maybe they can surprise us. Maybe they can win a few more. The athleticism kind of takes over and kind of launches us to an NCAA bid. Who knows? I'm always kind of an optimist. I like for Clemson, or to believe Clemson can kind of make it anywhere, anytime, and beat anybody on any given night. So hopefully that's the case, and we see a lot of wins coming from our Tigers on the hardwood.